Within each of us, there is an unexplored system that unlocks our body's ability to heal itself. Although only recently discovered, it has kept bodies in balance for millennia. I believe that if I can find the right combination, it might just save my life. My name is Michelle, and I have a crazy story to share. If I hadn't lived it myself, I probably wouldn't believe it, but I promise you it's all true. I have an incurable cancer, and I'm treating myself with a substance that's been banned around the world for 80 years. Maybe you've guessed, I'm treating my cancer with cannabis, and this is my story. So here's my recent surgery. It was laparoscopic, which I was really thrilled about. There was cancer on my gallbladder, the lymph nodes right up by my pancreas, and there was some small tumors that weren't in lymph nodes. So I have a lot of involvement up here.
Michelle called us from Oxford, where she was at the time, and told us that she had to go to the emergency room for pain in her pelvis. And we thought it was just a twisted ovarian cyst. But the CT scan and others warned us that this was a much more ominous diagnosis. And soon she had major surgery and removal of an ovarian tumor that was metastatic throughout her abdomen.
When Michelle first told us that she had cancer, I was in a state of disbelief. She'd always been such a healthy little girl and so happy. We did a lot of sailing when Michelle was little. When we would catch barracuda or any type of fish, her first question was, do we get to eat it? My first thought when Michelle told me she was going to use cannabis, I thought, great. If it helps the situation, I'm all for it. And this is how progress is made in medicine. Somebody tries something new, it works, the research is done, and the success spreads.
My journey with cannabis was really an accident at the beginning, because if you can believe it, I managed to go through high school and all of college without ever knowingly seeing cannabis. We live in California where medical marijuana is legal. I happen to live next to a neighbor who's a retired GP. His retirement project is studying cannabinoids, and he's very interested in the medicine that's hidden in this amazing plant.
Michelle and Bruce had spent a year in England, and when Michelle returned, we heard that she had been diagnosed with ovarian cancer. I suggested perhaps that cannabis would help her get some relief from anxiety and maybe help her sleep. I pointed out that there have been a number of cases where cannabis has been shown, or at least has been suspected to be effective in controlling some of the genitourinary type cancers.
If Bill hadn't suggested that I try it, initially just for sleep and to relieve what I call disease anxiety, I probably never would have started. And if I hadn't taken the lower doses and seen some changes in my tumor growth, I never would have tried the really high dose regimen and seen my tumor shrink.
I make my own chocolates because I like to use the chocolates to control my insomnia and muscle spasms and whatnot. I grow the cannabis myself in a fungicide and pesticide-free environment and use that to make an extract with coconut oil. And the coconut oil is then mixed with delicious Belgian chocolate and vanilla, and then dosed out and stored in the fridge.
Cannabis can be helpful in treating a wide range of ailments, including epilepsy, multiple sclerosis, and pain, to name a few. But why is this unique plant so effective in the treatment of so many disorders? Science points to the endocannabinoid system, or ECS. Only discovered in 1988, the ECS is a cell signaling system made up of receptors placed throughout the body. The ECS maintains homeostasis, It does this by creating cannabinoids, such as anandamide, vital compounds that regulate almost every bodily function. If the body fails to produce enough of its own cannabinoids, compounds found in the cannabis plant known as phytocannabinoids can supplement the ECS and restore balance. With more than 500 compounds identified in cannabis, each individual cannabinoid has its own effect on the body. For example, THC has been shown in preclinical studies to kill several types of cancer cells. It also reduces pain and is a neural protectant.
Thanks to Bill's chocolates, I was sleeping better, but I needed to talk to an expert, someone familiar with the endocannabinoid system and its ability to heal the body.
How often are you using cannabis?
Oh, every day.
But how often during the day?
Oh, just at night.
I am a Western trained physician. I graduated from the University of Washington. Part of it goes back to being the son of a pharmacist and working in my father's drugstore for 12 years when I was an adolescent and young adult. I was aware that the basis of pharmacy is plant-based medicine, and I have my father's 1927 Remington textbook of pharmacy. At page 999 and 1000, it tells you how to make tincture of cannabis and that it's useful in treating pain and anxiety. I am talking about stuff that was used by the Chinese in the 26th century BC that was used in Ayurvedic medicine in the 17th century BC, that was in the United States Pharmacopoeia from 1854 to 1972, and was the third most common ingredient in prescriptions and patent medicines after alcohol and opium at the turn of the 19th to the 20th century.
I feel very lucky that I still feel healthy enough and we have a very good quality of life. I love to be outside and I love to spend time gardening, and I especially love growing food and fruit trees. A friend gave me an avocado tree as a present, and we're calling it my tree of hope. And there's actually some tiny, tiny baby avocados. About 3 or 4 of them that are that big. Many different types of cancers have a marker that can be tested in blood to get a general sense of if the tumor is growing or shrinking. Ovarian cancer has a marker that's called a CA, that stands for cancer antigen, and it's then numbered 125. So when my tumor marker starts going up, I definitely have tumor growth. By using the CA-125 blood tests that I had every 3 weeks during my remission, I was able to change my cannabis dosing in between each blood work and get a good sense of how my tumor was responding to the different cannabinoid treatments. A pretty amazing pattern emerged. While I was on a low THC dose that the neighbors made for me, my number was going up just 1 and 2 points every 3 weeks, pretty consistently. And then we had an international trip to the Galapagos. So I call this my Galapagos experiment. No treatment for 3 weeks because it's illegal to travel with it. And my number shot up 8 points. And my oncologist was pretty shocked. So then I started on a high dose AC/DC mixture, and then I saw my numbers go up again, 5 points each time. But not good, the number's still going up. And then I started a high THC formula, and I slowly worked my way up to 60 milligrams, and my number fell 40% in 3 weeks, which is really remarkable. So I kept doing that for another 2 weeks before surgery, and it fell again. So it fell 50% on no other treatment. So I feel like there's something in here. I'm really a data-driven person, and when I look at this, I feel like I need to figure this out and figure out how to keep my numbers stable, because Western medicine doesn't have a good option for me. I'm just going to have to do my own science, because I think that I don't have time to wait for real clinical trials. I dove into the latest peer-reviewed journals to find the preclinical data abundant and clear. Cannabis has powerful and diverse anti-tumor properties. For the past 8 months, I've been reading all of the papers and the latest findings from some amazing labs around the world that are working on this. Dr. Mieri's lab in Israel is really doing the most groundbreaking work.
It doesn't matter if you're coming with a lot of keys, you need one to fit to the receptors in order to open it and to activate it.
I'm absolutely thrilled that my new favorite person, Dr. Mieri, will be in California in September. The CanMed conference will be here this fall.
150 milligrams of cannabinoids a day, and yet we have the experts saying you need 300 to 800 milligrams of cannabinoids a day. When we get to cancer, we have some specific things that the cannabinoids do that are useful in killing cancer cells. And we know from a substantial amount of research with animals and in tissue culture that cannabis, the cannabinoids and the terpenes in the plant kill cancer cells.
There's some shorebirds. Those aren't gulls, are they? No. If you had asked me before I started cannabis, I would say my prognosis is very poor. But since I managed to shrink and control my tumor on cannabis alone, I'm hopeful that somehow I can figure out how to manage this disease and die a little old lady from some other ailment.
I adore her. I love her to the moon and back. And I really admire all she's doing. And I'm starting to feel hopeful again for the first time in pretty much since her initial diagnosis. Where I'm finding hope is that there's all of this evidence coming out of the lab, experiments showing how cannabis can kill tumor cells. It's not just trial and error, there's biochemistry involved, and they're starting to really understand the biochemistry. And it's a really targeted pathway, right? It's not like chemotherapy where you just throw lots of toxic drugs at the system and hope that it kills the cancer cells before it kills the rest of the body. There's amazing chemistry that has the potential to really make all the difference in actually giving Michelle a cure.
I'm so blessed to have the world's best husband.
Days of a brand new start.
Bruce is compassionate and so smart. He's helped me with the research. He always believed in me, even at the very beginning of all this, when it really seemed crazy that cannabis can kill cancer cells.
Israel's Institute of Technology published a groundbreaking paper highlighting the success of specific strains of cannabis impacting a variety of cancers. Bruce and I tackled the science together.
When it does work, it's like the same it's the same strains over and over again, right? The dark blue and the dark green.
Yeah, number 7, I think it is, seems to be really powerful.
On the cancer research, we find from the beginning that there is a specificity between the type of the extract that we're using, the type of the strain that we're choosing, that its ability to kill the cancer cells. We find out that strain number 1 is attacking colon cancer, but doing nothing to prostate cancer or to liver cancer. And strain number 2, extract number 2, will kill just the prostate cancer, but will do nothing to colon and to breast. So now we will screen many types of cannabis, and we will try to find a specific one that will kill just these cells with these mutations. This is the way we're trying to approach it now.
So I think we have to go all in on this cannabis and see if we can keep me in remission at the end of this cycle of chemo. I don't think there's a lot of other choices.
Michelle's probably one of the most alive people I know. It's really fun to go to the market with her, and I'm sure we probably bought way more than both of us are going to be able to cook. There are so many things about Michelle that I really admire. Her perseverance, her dogged determination to get to the bottom of things. I love talking science with her, and I especially like eating and sharing foods with Michelle.
Thank you.
It was just absolutely devastating when I heard Michelle had cancer. I mean, it's a fear that I think all of us have, that something is wrong on the inside and you don't know, and then to find out that someone so alive and so vibrant that you know has cancer, I mean, it was just earth-shattering, really. My father's uncle was a pharmacist, and my dad, when he was a little boy, heard the story from his uncle repeatedly about how before 1937, he used to prescribe cannabis in many different forms to his patients for all sorts of ailments. And then once the prohibition came into place, cannabis was removed from the US pharmacopoeia, and my dad's uncle was extremely bitter, and he didn't understand why anyone would find this plant objectionable, especially when it had so many healing properties.
Schedule 1 is the classification of a few drugs that are considered to have no medical benefit and are considered to be highly addictive with a high potential for abuse. And marijuana doesn't fall into either of those categories.
It's nothing short of criminal. We have spent over $1 trillion on locking people up for using cannabis, rather than spending much of that $1 trillion to take a look at cancer.
They won't know if we don't tell them.
My mom had a bold idea. She suggested we write letters to the DEA, telling them my story and asking them, nicely, to remove cannabis from Schedule 1.
This is really insane that we're telling the DEA that I'm taking an illegal medicine to cure myself, and it feels a little bit crazy to send this to them, but yeah, there we go.
Well, I don't know, maybe they need to hear more things like this.
There's a newly formed bipartisan committee to discuss rescheduling of cannabis. And if I could sit down and talk to them, I would show them the proof that I've collected that the cannabis shrunk my tumor, and that all those stories on the internet are true, that patients are treating themselves with this substance that's illegal. And I would want them to look me in the eye and tell me that they're going to work to fix this, because it's ridiculous that we have something that can cure the worst diseases. And we've locked it away for 80 years and vilified it, and we've lost all that time. And we need to change that as quickly as we can.
Tomorrow's my 17th chemo, and I really don't want to have any more chemo. It's gotten so much harder. My legs ache and my feet hurt, and just at this point I feel like it's just poisoning me, and it's not giving me any more good time. I just feel like it's the end of the line with that for me, and it just feels like we're on the edge of unknown territory. Maybe I'm just like so hopeful that this cannabis will be the miracle cure for me. But even if it's not, I'm so tired of the chemo, and I don't know if I want to keep doing the last two. It's a really hard decision to make, and I'm not a quitter, but at some point it's kind of like, it just doesn't make sense. There's such a big weight on my shoulders of trying to figure this out and fight for it to be legal. And you can only handle so much, I'm just so tired of being stressed out. It's like walking around with a time bomb, knowing that I've only got like a year left.
After months of researching on my own, I felt empowered to finally be at CanMed, the world's largest medical cannabis conference. I was surrounded by people who understand the power of the endocannabinoid system. I met medical researchers from around the world who are working on the science of this plant. I guess you can say I found my tribe. Many of the physicians and scientists I've been following were there. Dr. Meshulam, the grandfather of cannabinoid research, was there. I thanked him for his lifetime of work and told him that the molecule he discovered is shrinking my tumor. Dr. Joe Goldstrich was there, and Dr. Harry McElroy, both physicians who had helped me with dosing. Dr. Behrman was there too. He spoke on a panel addressing the absence of the endocannabinoid system in medical schools. I learned that only 13% even mention the ECS.
We are saddled with this stigma, and what's really important is to do what the doctors up here have done, and that is to stand up and speak out. You don't have to be obnoxious, you don't have to be abrasive. What you need to do is extol the virtues of science.
I spent time talking with Dr. Dustin Sulak about the importance of bringing up cannabis with your oncologist.
So oncologists, in my experience, are very open to the use of cannabis to support quality of life and to mitigate the symptoms and side effects of their treatments. That's a very easy in. I want to feel better. Cannabis is helping me feel better. Cannabis could potentially enhance the effectiveness of conventional treatment and protect the healthy cells from the detriment of conventional treatments.
The one thing I think is so important to be clear is the research shows that cannabis works well on some tumor types and doesn't work at all on others. So I hope cancer patients will not abandon traditional treatment and only try cannabis as a complement to traditional treatment. It's not a cure-all. It works really well on some tumor types and doesn't do anything for others.
And we're just about to see Dr. Mieri, who's sitting right over there. We said hi yesterday, and he wants to see my data set, which was ridiculous because it's so simple and silly, but we're going to hopefully have a chit-chat with him later today.
Every patient tells you how it changed his life. How he took opioids, nothing healthy, and now he's taking cannabis and totally changed his life. And in Israel, the medical cannabis is different from the States or Canada. These are real patients. In order to get cannabis for pain in Israel, you need at least 1 year to be treated with other medicine, other hospital care. So you need to have chronic pain for at least 1 year, treated by many other medicines that didn't help you. Just then you can get cannabis.
I gave away hundreds of bumper stickers.
Yes, as many as you promised, they'll be out wild in the world. It says cannabis is medicine, science can prove it, and prohibition. Check out the back of my shirt and tell me what you think. Your endocannabinoid system is scientific proof that cannabis is medicine. Yes, wait, we're making a film.
But the best thing about CanMed was talking to Dr. Mieri. I was thrilled to tell him cannabis shrank my tumor. I felt the heat of the cells dying.
Just wanted to succeed to shrink the tumor.
He shared with me the rapid growth of his lab in Israel, employing 45 PhD students and the most advanced technology to untangle the complex biochemistry of cannabis. But he cautioned that it will be years before science can identify an exact cannabis prescription for individual cancers. If only the research had begun sooner. For now, we remain in an insane situation. Half of Americans live in states where they can buy recreational cannabis, but patients who need advice and precise dosing are left to fend for themselves.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. Thank you for the opportunity to tell my story. For the past 3.5 years, I have battled recurrent ovarian cancer with 2 surgeries, 3 series of chemo, and immunotherapy.
With the love and support of my family and friends, I will continue to fight for science, not stigma, to drive medical policy.
This past year, during my remission, I did an experiment. I took high-dose THC for 5 weeks and I saw my tumor marker shrink by 49%. If you're incredulous, I don't blame you. If you've not spent the last 8 months like I have poring over all the scientific journals, new data is coming out every week showing the anti-tumor properties of cannabis. It may not be curative, but I know it's given me more time. I hope that you will remember that this is medicine for people. This is not about getting high, and the research is just cracking open the amazing benefits of this plant. Thank you.
How you feeling right now?
Dexamethasone!
I think I'm high on steroids. I had dexamethasone today with my chemo infusion, and I feel really good for about 26 hours after the infusion. So I'm jazzed up. I don't know, I just think I'm gonna be winning a Nobel Prize for this. We're gonna figure this out. We're gonna science the hell out of this shit. So, fight on.